Hello everyone, welcome to my channel J Networks. In this video, we'll see popular applications that run on TCP and their well-known port numbers. This is important to know in the perspective of networking as well as ethical hacking as well. Because to be a good ethical hacker, we need to be a good networking guy. So we need to know what are the protocols and applications that would be running on the networks. So let's start with um, the World Wide Web, that is the general World Wide Web that we use, that is the internet, www. This application exists through web browsers, accessing the content available on the web servers. Although it is often thought of as an end user application, we can actually use www to manage a router or a switch or a server as well. So when we enable web server function in the router or switch and use a browser to access the router or switch, so this protocol can also be used to access devices, devices like routers, switches, and in some cases some servers. Then comes the another famous application, DNS, domain name system, that allows users to use names to refer to computers, with DNS being used to find the corresponding IP addresses. For example, let us say the IP address of google.com is 256.17.19.32. So whenever we go into our browser, we don't type this IP address, right? We just type the name google.com. So this is being taken care by something called as domain name system, where it has all the entries of the human readable name and the corresponding IP address. So whenever we type google.com, the DNS server provides the IP address to this computer so that it will route our web packets or any packet through the internet to this Google server. So DNS also uses a client server model, with DNS server being controlled by network engineers and DNS client functions being mo mostly they use TCP IP. All right. The client simply asks the DNS server to supply the IP address that corresponds to a given name. So whenever an user just types google.com as I explained here, it first queries the DNS server, and then the DNS server provides the IP address and the computer routes the packets accordingly. So the third and mostly used protocol is SNMP, Simple Name Network Management Protocol. This is an application layer protocol used specifically for network device management, like management of the network devices like switches, routers, firewalls, etc. For example, the vendor Cisco supplies a large variety of network management products. Many of them are stored in a software called as Cisco Prime. Cisco Prime. So the Cisco Prime uses SNMP to manage the routers and switches and firewalls mainly. So this SNMP can be used to query, compile, store, and display information about a network's operation or the network device status. So now let's move on to another important protocol called as TFTP. So this is mainly used in the networking world. So this is called as Trivial File Transfer Protocol. This protocol is for basic file transfer, hence the word trivial is used. Alternatively, routers and switches can also use FTP, that is most commonly used file transfer protocol, which is a much more functional protocol to transfer files. So both TFTP and FTP work very well for moving files into and out of network devices. FTP allows many more features, making it a good choice for general end user population, whereas TFTP client and server applications are very simple, making them good tools for copying the configuration or sending configuration to network devices. Network devices. The main reason is TFTP does not use any username and password, whereas FTP uses FTP uses username and password. So for sending and getting the configuration from network devices is easy and faster when compared to TFTP. So some of these applications use TCP and some of them use UDP. For example, there is another protocol called as SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and POP, Post Office Protocol. These two protocols are used for sending and receiving of mails. So they require guaranteed delivery. As I have explained in my previous video, TCP communications, you can check that video by clicking the link on the screen. So TCP communications make sure that guaranteed and error-free delivery is happening between the client and server. So SMTP and POP both use TCP for guaranteed mail delivery. Regardless of which transport protocol is used, applications use a well-known port number so that clients know which port they attempt to connect to. So I have just populated the well-known port numbers used by the TCP uh, applications here in this table. I'll just go through a list of TCP applications and their ports here in this list. So here is a list of port numbers and their protocol and the application. So FTP, the FTP applications which we use every day, that uses two port numbers, that is port number 20 and 21. So port number 21 is mainly used for establishing a connection between FTP client and server, whereas after the connection is established, port number 20 is used to do the data transfer. And SSH, that we use to access a secure access to the network devices like switches, routers, firewalls, and to even servers, we use a protocol called SSH that uses port number 22. Whereas there is another protocol called as Telnet that uses plain text. SSH uses encryption, whereas Telnet is plain text. So anyone can see the commands and usernames and passwords that we are sending to the device. The device could be switch, router, firewall, or a server. So this point to be remembered that many vulnerabilities are found in network devices and servers that are related to Telnet. So Telnet should be disabled on these devices. The Telnet should be only used during the initial configuration of the device, and then after the configuration is done, it should be moved to SSH for device management. Another protocol, SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, that we use every day in our life, that is used for sending and receiving mails. So SMTP is used for sending mails. That uses TCP25. That uses a TCP because mail should be delivered with high guarantee. Then DNS. DNS, as I explained, domain name system or domain name server, is a background service that we use each and every day in our uh, laptops, PCs, phones. Whenever we type a website name, that query would be sent to the public DNS servers. For example, Google has got public DNS servers called as 4.4.4.4 and 8.8.8.8. These are an example of DNS servers. As soon as we type, for example, let us we type yahoo.com, that our computer does not know what is the IP address of yahoo.com. So it immediately sends a query to the DNS server, and the DNS server responds with an IP address. That IP address could be any IP address that will be public. So our computer will send the web request to the public IP address. So this will be happening on port number 53, whereas DNS uses both UDP and TCP. And another important server is called as DHCP server, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. This is also used at home levels as well. For example, we have a router, home router, in our home. So that is provided by ISP, and that is connected to the ISP network. And in our home, we may be having one desktop PC and one laptop and a few phones that are connected to this home router. So we don't manually sit and configure IP addresses like 192.168.1.1.2.3.4. This is automatically taken care by this router that has this service running, DHCP service, and that runs on port number 67 at UDP. Then we have the DHCP client that runs port number 68 on UDP. So the server runs on port number 67, that will be listening on 67 UDP, and these clients they will be listening on port number 68. For example, they will send a query to port number 67 to the router, and router responds on port number 68. So these will make a note of the IP addresses given to them. All right, and a very less known protocol called as TFTP that is mostly used in corporate environment to upload and download configuration from devices, mainly network devices. So that uses UDP on port number 69. Then most widely used protocol HTTP. We open up a browser and then type any website that uses TCP and port 80. To understand this, you can go to my other videos where I have explained in depth about how multiplexing happens and then how client and server communication happens. You can check that by clicking on the above video. Then is POP3. This is also a protocol that we use every day, which we don't know about. So that uses 110 port number and TCP as the protocol. This POP3 is used mainly for incoming mails. Then Snmp, this is mainly used in corporate environments for the management of network devices that uses port number 161 and UDP. Then SSL that uses port number 443. This SSL is used along with port number 80 on the web services. For example, if you see any website that has HTTPS, so that means that is using a SSL certificate and that communication is secure. That is used on secure websites and it uses TCP/PS protocol and port number 443. And this is syslog. Again, this is not commonly used in home environment. It is used in corporate environment. This is used to send any kind of logs to a server. There will be a syslog server. Any kind of logs will be sent to a syslog server that is on destination port 514 and UDP. So these logs are used for troubleshooting and documentation purpose in a corporate environment. These are not uh, used for any normal home user. So, so these are the most popular applications we use every day in our life, knowingly or unknowingly. Hope this video has been informative to you. If you like this video, please like and share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.